We will not let the French people have the presidential election stolen from them. Far-right leader Marine Le Pen told French reporters today after being convicted of embezzlement and barred from politics for 5 years. U.S. President Donald Trump told reporters, "That sounds like this country. It sounds very much like this country." Meanwhile, right-wing leaders in Europe, such as Hungary's Viktor Orbán, the Netherlands Gert Wilders, and Poland's Mateusz Morawiecki are all coming to the defense of Le Pen, rallying for her cause. And now to discuss whether this is a political witch hunt, as some claim, or is it the rule of law at work in a healthy democracy, I'm joined by Wawrzyniec Konarski, rector at Vistula, University of Warsaw. Hello, and thank you very much for coming in and joining us on World News tonight.
Good evening to you, of course, to everyone.
Yes, now an unfair attack on the leading candidate or the letter of the law. What's your opinion on what happened with Marine Le Pen?
Whenever you touch upon any issues which are appearing within the political life, the political market, there's normally a situation in which, of course, interpretation is something which matters. Interpretation is delivered by people who are involved in the certain case, which means, of course, Marine Le Pen and all of the supporters, including some of the top politicians like Mr. Morawiecki and Mr. Orbán, will be absolutely on her line, on her side. There is, of course, those who are going to underline the issue of the rule of law, will say that the rule of law is here, the most important issue. But I'm afraid that from the purely political point of view, and especially from the point of the cleavages which are right now visible within the French society, we have to say that this will lead to the very deep cleavages even more than we can notice right now. Any such situation will definitely divide society into two rather not being ready to find anything which might be the, let's say, reconciliation among them. So Marine Le Pen will definitely use purely political argumentation and not being ready, in my mind, to explain if she was really involved in any, let's say, not legal types of the behavior. Whereas those who will be attacking her will be saying that, of course, this is not a political revenge, but just a matter of the rule of law. As we may say it, the truth perhaps is in the middle, as always.
Well, even Le Pen's political opponents didn't believe that that particular provision of the law would be enforced, the ban on politics for 5 years. Is this one of those cases where, well, and apparently, I must add that it was the initiative of the far right to have judges enforce such a ban when somebody breaks the law, especially when it comes to mishandling finances, public finances. So with both of those things said, is this simply an issue of the law works as long as it's not applied to me?
What we really need right now within the very many European countries is to deliver some argumentation that the rule of law are those which matter. Because I'm afraid sometimes we are ready, and including me, to call our contemporary political elites within some European states and also within the EU as too much plutocratic, which means that not issues which should base on the merits, but on the position, especially on the capital, on the wealth, which matters and which definitely may be used as the argumentation for someone to be involved in politics. But I think your argumentation you mentioned is quite interesting and goes in a bit perverse way, because if there is a certain political camp which definitely declared already that law has to be very harsh, and afterwards suddenly they notice that this law is also harsh against them, this is a sort of the political trap. Sometimes it's better to keep mouth shut and not to go too far, because if you go too far, you definitely may be accused for the same argumentation.
It certainly seems so in this case. And now, right-wing leaders from Europe are voicing their support for Le Pen, and even the White House is concerned with these developments. Now, could this ruling, in fact, affect the political scene across Europe? Could conservatives or right-wing parties get a boost from what's happening to Le Pen?
in order to be more, let's say, detailed as far as the ideological aspect is concerned, we have to say that this is in fact the issue of the right-wing populism, because populism is, I mean, the phenomenon which is reigning over Europe, I'm afraid, right now. By the way, if we may compare populism ideologically, because it's not a cohesive ideology, it's an amalgamation of the ideologies, sometimes very different. If we look upon, for instance, Latin America, the populism there is, or used to be, quite often left-oriented. In case of Europe, it is right-wing orientation, quite strong one, very strongly xenophobic and very strongly, I mean, argumenting that something must be done in order to change the nature of the existing nation states, but coming back to the old idea of nation state at the cost of any types of the integration. So this is in fact a very vital type of the competition between the completely different political types of the thinking, which means the tribalism, political tribalism will be, I'm afraid, still very strong within European societies, and it will, of course, have certain impact on the existence, for instance, the rule of law in the very many states. Personally, I'm always quite afraid from the point of view if I'm just a citizen, but I'm not afraid of these changes whenever I think about myself as a political sciences specialist, because it's always a kind of the political harvest for me.
All right, and final question. We have just very briefly, I'd like to ask you, what's next, do you think, in the French political scene? Marine Le Pen wants to appeal this decision, but it's still unknown whether the appeal process will be in time for the 2027 elections. What happens next? Does the next person in line in her party go up to be a presidential candidate? Will the courts hear this in an expedited fashion? What do you think?
I think that whatever courts decide in France, in contemporary France, I mean, the assets of the party of Marine Le Pen and Mr. Bardella will be absolutely rising, in my mind. And this will be, again, also, it has to be confronted with the fact that President Macron does not have a very stable and very strong position. And he is having, as we definitely know, quite many, I would say, enemies, and the large portions of the French society is not in favor of him. So, finally, I think the entire operation against Le Pen is quite risky as far as the political stability in France is concerned. So it has to be balanced in a certain way.
Okay, Wawrzyniec Konarski, rector at Vistula, University of Warsaw. Thank you very much for joining.
Thank you too.
Appreciate it. And that concludes this edition of World News Tonight. Thank you all for watching. Have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you next time. Good night.